What is going on, everybody? This is Slick from Breaking the Clutch, back again with another Halo Wars 2 video. Today I want to talk about some awesome artwork that was released at Gamescom in Cologne, Germany. Most certainly a fun event, and I hope to maybe make it out there one day. I definitely have some good contacts in Germany. I was just there for 20 days, so I missed it by that much. Regardless of which, I want to talk about the media release that happened for Halo Wars 2 Awakening the Nightmare from that event. So what we're going to do is jump into every single respective image because there is some incredible artwork. Like, I downright say incredible. This is some of the best artwork I've seen from Halo, period. The Flood is one of my favorite antagonists in the Halo franchise. I wish it came back, and I'm glad to see it again, Awakening the Nightmare, to actually have the Flood in high-res, incredible photos, like custom art featuring Brutes and the Banished and all the new leaders. It's incredible. This is something we're spoiled rotten seeing this, so I want to just jump right in and analyze some of these photos to see if we can catch anything from it, to be hopeful for an Awakening the Nightmare, and hopefully just kind of get a little bit more in detail with what we're going to see. So without further ado, let's jump into the first image. So from this first image, you can actually learn so much. I've seen so many different aspects of craziness in this photo, and a lot of things, like they're touching on old Halo, they're touching on new Halo, current Halo, and it's all absolutely phenomenal. From the middle center of the photo, we see Voridus, the new Hammer Brute leader, with a spiker in his right hand and a grav hammer in his left hand. Voridus here is definitely wearing some form of augmented armor, similar to what Decimus and Atriox have. So something maybe he had access to the UNSC vault of, say, augmentation armor from Yalner and all that stuff. So he is equipped with some fancy augmentations. He's going to be most certainly a badass hero unit to use in the game. On the left side of him, we do see a Flood combat form as well as a Flood tank form and a shit ton, I mean an absolute shit ton of Flood infection forms. There are millions of them all over the screen. They're even like clogging the view of some of the art here, and it's just a crazy vision. Everything you see here is just absolutely phenomenal. Moving to the right of that as well, I also do spot a flood carrier form of some sort. It looks like, anyway, it looks like it's kind of a little this form from something we've seen in the past, which I'm really excited. I hope they just take these flood forms, man. Just do something absolutely crazy. Do something remarkable. Do something different with a flood. Use this. I mean, they've openly said that this is going to be, you should consider this outbreak on the Ark a contained event in the Halo universe. What that means to me is that the flood most likely will be, you know, shut down in the spoiler. I mean, I'm just assuming, it's complete assumption, but I think that the flood will actually be released and then contained again, or like completely eradicated off the Ark because of the Banished. It'd be very interesting if they gave us Banished leaders in a Banished campaign that we end up losing. I think that'd be very interesting if they did that. Moving on from that as well, we do see just an absolute battle-scarred battleground in front of us here. And then also in the top middle, we do actually spot probably the most interesting thing out of this whole bunch. We actually spot two blisterbacks opening fire on a certain something. What that looks like to me is a recreation of the Gravemind. That is something completely ridiculous and completely insane, and I just don't know how I feel. That's just awesome, man. That is one of the coolest things. The Gravemind is one of the coolest and most antagonistic characters in Halo history. The Gravemind is, to me, the most badass character in any video game we've ever faced. I think he's definitely, like, the way he talks, the way he is, the fact that he is a culmination of a bunch of dead fucking bodies. That is one of the coolest things in Halo in general. And the fact that we potentially might see him, this artwork might be hinting at that, is just so breathtaking, is so excellent. I'm genuinely excited to see if we meet the Gravemind again, or if the Gravemind is rebuilt on the Ark. After allegedly killing the Gravemind after the activation of installation 04B, I think it's B, it's C in Halo Wars 2, so it's B, I think, in Halo 3 when we did that, and seeing, like, allegedly killing him, to see him come back from the dead would be absolutely insane. And that is what the Flood represent. Coming back when you really you just don't expect it, and they just keep coming back, man. So to have the Flood back again, especially with the Gravemind, and fighting a potential Gravemind as a boss, that would be so badass. Moving on to photo number 2, there is a lot happening in this image. Definitely still awesome. Not as cool as the first image, I'll be honest, but still pretty damn awesome. If we look right here at the center of the screen, we do see the unused Halo 2 Flood Juggernaut taking down what looks like to be either Jerome or Douglas here, strangling him. And then behind him as well, we actually have like a bluish, I think that's another, I think that's the one down low is Douglas, and the one in the air is Jerome. You guys can most certainly correct me. I see a little bit of a red stripe going on there on the guy in the air. And they're both getting absolutely strangled by this crazy tentacle craziness. and it's most certainly something I'd love to see in game. I know for sure we will be fighting a couple Flood Juggernauts, so it'll be very exciting to see this happen in the game as well. To the left, I see some form of an ODST, what looks like a BR Silence, which is just crazy looking, and then in the far back, there's actually a Colossus, which is really cool. I'd like to see the Colossi used in the story arc of the game. Dead center, we do see a Grunt holding a Needler, and then in the air attacking the Flood Juggernaut seems to be a Hammer Brute. Now, if you notice, it seems that the UNSC and the Banished are teaming up to deal with this Flood Juggernaut. That could mean that the campaign is kind of based around a tag team effort against the Flood, which essentially would have to happen in order to contain them, I believe. I don't think the Banished could do it by themselves. I don't think the UNSC could do it by themselves. So we might see a team up effort, which would be really, really badass. Moving on to photos number 3 and 4. They are actually the 2 teasers for the new maps in Halo Wars 2 called Mirage and Fissure. Of course, the artwork for the Halo Wars 2 maps and multiplayer are just absolutely phenomenal. Every single one I've seen, I just am amazed at. Still taking place in the Ark. We got some Hornets flying into the one on the right, some Pelicans flying into the one on the left. Nothing too spectacular. I do notice a massive yellow fissure of sorts in the second photo for Fissure. Go figure. I mean, it's, yeah, duh. And then, of course, on Mirage, I do see some giant 400 structures. I think we're going to see some basic multiplayer maps with the similar 5 power node setups and a bunch of base slots. I'm very excited to use those. I also really hope that they do implement some form of maybe like a population increasing garrison, like they did in Halo Wars 1. That would be something I'd just love to see. Moving on to image number 5, we see immediately some crazy Flood chaos. This is something that they really did not implement well in the older Halo games, I believe. I'm not sure if that was just due to just the game itself, and you were being, say, like, you know, there'd be flood infection craziness everywhere around you in the level, but, you know, you'd still be built along the designed paths, and you wouldn't get to see the full scale of the flood infection. I think this is a perfect opportunity in Halo Wars 2 to implement the flood infection, even better than Halo Wars 1, in my opinion. Because right away we see this massive flood takeover, and it's just red, and it's bloody looking, and it's just like veiny and gross. It's just tentacle. It's just taking over essentially everything here. And I'm not sure what I'm seeing, but I think I see some power nodes that are taken over by the flood infection is what it looks like to me. And it looks like some kind of garrison type thing all the way back. I'm assuming this is a little snippet from a level in the game, and it just, look at this. You see the green fog on the outskirts of this image. You see just pure death and destruction. Nothing is full of life like the normal Forerunner constructs are. I'm sorry, normal Forerunner artifacts are. The Ark is usually bright and beautiful and has its own weather elements and everything, but this is just death, man. This is just absolute gross, red, yellow, pukey disgustingness that the Flood is, and that is so damn awesome. I'm really excited to see a mission like that. Moving on to image number 6. This is what I was mentioning earlier. So I've talked about this on Twitter. Imagine you hop out a Pelican and you're told to shoot at this giant ass thing. The second you come out, you'd be like, fuck that. I am back in my Pelican. I'm flying back to Spirit of Fire. I'm hanging out my bunk and I'm going to sleep. Night, night. That's it. Hell no. Dude, look at this thing. This is Decimus for sure, in my opinion. I think this is flood-infected Decimus. No spoilers, so you can speculate why he might be infected. You know what I'm saying? So this guy is just absolutely crazy. He's got the crazy-looking swinging hammer that Decimus has, and the chain gun is missing. The mech suit is there. He's half infected. Look at the dreads are coming down. There's screaming happening. It's insane. Also want to talk about in the top left, we do see a, looks like evidence of a blurry attacking Flood Swarm. If you guys don't remember what that is, I'll put an image up on the screen right now. Flood Swarms were the little birds that you had to kill as AIs guarding Flood bases in Halo Wars 1. Looks like they might be making a return. Moving on to the right side, I see a new form of flying Flood, it seems like. This is something I don't think I've ever seen, even in the comics, even in, say, any other kind of Halo media. I don't think I've ever seen a Flood form like this. This is very similar to the Zerg Overlord from StarCraft, in my opinion. It looks like something incredibly badass. It just is this floating mass of gunk and tentacles. It's typical Flood stuff. It's definitely something really exciting, and I'd love to play against it as an AI in the campaign. I'm really excited for that. Lastly, in this image, in the middle right-hand side of the screen, we see more Flood mass. Not sure what's going on there, but I know it looks gross and very Flood-like, and I'm very excited to see what it is in-game. Moving on to what I believe is probably one of the best pieces out of this bunch is number 7, which is an infected Warthog. This is something very fantastic and new for the Halo franchise. I don't think we've ever seen. I remember in Halo 3 on the Flood levels, you were able to still get into vehicles because the Flood have never been able to infect them in the Halo games as far as I can remember. So the fact that we're seeing vehicles just like we did in the little teaser trailer for Awakening the Nightmare gameplay, the B-roll that 343 released in this update, that you can see that the Flood are now infecting vehicles and operating them. That is something ridiculous, man. That is just very frightening, and it's going to be great to play against in the campaign for sure. In this image, you have a Warthog with a bunch of, looks like flood sacks, flood tentacles, and flood infection forms running all over it, and they're just kind of consuming the Warthog. I'm assuming to take over the human mass that was once inside of it and turn it into flood forms. That is just crazy, man. I love this art. You see that this is something like this might be early on in the outbreak or an area that hasn't been touched by the flood, because what you have is happy, peaceful dandelions and flowers, you know. Then you have this fucking death ball right here in the middle of the screen. It's absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see that. Moving on to our first gameplay photo, this is image number 8, and what we're seeing here is it looks like a Forerunner artifact building of some kind that I guarantee you this is going to be a defense type mission. As you can see, we have the blue UNSC player coming in with a bunch of Hornets to defend a lot of these banished random units. Looks like he is the ideal worst composition to deal with these Hornets. He most certainly should watch some BtC videos and learn how to counter these Hornets, but what it looks like to me is that there's some banished turrets laying around, a bunch of hunters, grunts, looks like there's some brute grenadiers as well, so this is a Vortis player right here, and then a bunch of other, say, units in the mix trying to deal with this UNSC outbreak. I think this is probably going to be, assuming that this is also a banished mission, and this campaign's banished base, I bet you we'll be dealing with some UNSC annoying Hornets at some point in the campaign. Moving on to image number 9, this is the first image that told us the name of the second hero unit and leader in Halo Wars 2 for Awakening the Nightmare DLC, and his name is Pavium. Vortis and Pavium are the two confirmed. Actually, my last video I made based on this, I actually said I looked everywhere for Pavium's name, and I could not find it anywhere, and I said that in my video, and 2 seconds after that I put this screenshot in there, and that just made me look like a complete fool, but what that means is that a lot of you guys were able to tell me, hey, Slick, guess what, you idiot? His name's Pavium. So we know his name. This is the player. This is most certainly some Terminus Firefight. You see in the top right a bunch of, say, different statistics and things happening in the game, different progress bars and levels, things like that. And then what you have here is a crazy beam attack, which I believe is either the Y ability for Pavium, similar to Hunter's brand, or like a mini eradication, and it's also the 5th leader power available to Pavium on his leader power wheel, as we went over in the video. If you haven't seen this video I'm talking about, guys, make sure you check it out. I dropped it earlier in the week, so make sure you go check that out and see what I'm talking about. It breaks down both Vortis and Pavium and all of their leader powers and new units, things like that we could see from the trailer. This final image is an image that has most certainly the least new and fun and craziness going on, which is okay because it's still very nice and pretty looking. What we see is 2 giant Ander Sentinels. They're probably not necessarily Ander Sentinels. They're probably defense for the Ark, considering Anders is no longer available to us in the campaign, at least as far as we know. Spoiler alert, sorry about that. But it looks like we have to defend a Scarab while we're getting onslaughted from various Sentinel units. So this is going to be an exciting mission as well, but that is all I could collect out of this image. So, I mean, nothing exciting, and once again, man, Hammer Brutes to deal with Sentinels, like who the hell is making these army compositions, man? I have no idea. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is the complete wrap-up of all of the imagery from Gamescom. I hope that you guys are excited for the Awakening of the Nightmare. I honestly, if I can be 100% honest, wasn't expecting a lot from Awakening the Nightmare, but as they keep teasing it more and more and more, it's definitely seeming like it's worth its value to me. I know a lot of you might be saying, hell no, bro, it's still too expensive. I respect that. That's okay. You know, you can have that opinion, but to me, all of these images and all these features coming with Awakening the Nightmare definitely seem worth it. They definitely seem extravagant. They're worked on very, very well, and it's definitely worth the expansion to the original game that is Halo Wars 2. Most certainly going to add that extra level of fun that we're hoping for right now, being, what is that? So September would be, was that 7 months after the game's release? So I'm very excited. I hope you guys are as well. I also hope that if you spot anything that I missed, please post it in the comment section below. Everyone always goes down in the comments and shares their opinions, how they feel about what I've shown, and it's always good. You guys always point out the things I miss, and that's very important. I love to just get that whole absorption of all these crazy ideas and also of all the things I missed. It's incredibly important to me as a content creator. So thank you guys for your awesomeness and your persistence. I hope you guys are excited for Waking the Nightmare. This has been Slick from Breaking the Clutch, and we'll see you guys next time.